Hey friends, we are back. And listen, y'all not gonna be saying I held y'all up from the goodness that we have planned for on today, okay? So I'm just gonna get right to it. If you've been tuning in lately and you just been loving the thought that we've been pushing, like Kim, I want to be the first one to take action and go so that someone else can go. And then we all will go forward. If you've been saying, Kim, I love the idea of being that resource for someone else, then guess what? You already know what to do. You're going to hit share. That's right. Right now, go on and share it to 1, 2, 5, 10. Remember I told you, y'all got a lot of friends. Go on and share. And when this episode is impactful for that person, which it will be, then it'll be because of you. So go on and pat yourself on the back and let's get into this episode. Today, we are talking about the fact that unwanted weight can pack on so very quickly. Honestly, we can become so accustomed to it that we forget what it felt like to ever live without the excess. Well, in this episode, we speak with husband, father, teacher, and fitness/nutrition enthusiast, John Groce, on the most weightiest time of his life. Overweight, pre-diabetic, but also just juggling the highs and lows of manhood, fatherhood, and husbandhood. He learned to ditch spiritual, mental, and physical weight in order to be the best man he could be. And in return, he found and packed on confidence and many new beginnings. And guess what, y'all? He's not heavy no more.
You're listening to We All Go Forward, a podcast on self-leadership through setbacks. With ownership, action, and growth, be set back, only to be catapulted forward into a more progressed, truer you.
John, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you so much, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Yo, thank you. Thank you. And happy belated birthday to you as
Uh,
well.
Thank you. I think I'm actually pretty excited about you being on the podcast. I'll tell you why. Because, I mean, the podcast is for anyone, male or female, but I do think it's important to note that you are the first male on in terms of a guest, like to bring that male energy. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I'm excited. And I think, we all need it, men and women, to hear from all types of people. So I think it's really great that we're hearing from someone
Nice,
like you.
nice. That's
Yeah.
exciting. I got the weight of the world on my shoulders now. I speak for. No,
Yep. Yes, you do. All right, cool. So let's get into this. This first question, I normally start off with a little bit of a warmer, and I would say this is probably going to be the most potentially vague question, but still very specific to you. How would you describe yourself? Obviously, in the intro, I have things that I listed to describe you. I know you in certain ways, but if there's something that you want the world to know about you, who you are, what you do, what's most important to you, what would you say?
um, who I am a married black male father, who is a teacher, an educator, and a lifetime kind of fitness enthusiast. Um, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay. I love it. I love it. So many things, so many important titles. And just, yeah, just so many important things that you listed there. So obviously we're here to talk about, I want to talk about all those roles, but we're here to really talk about that fitness aspect. And you said fitness enthusiast. When did you know that fitness was a part of your life's message?
Um, I think in the last year or so, well, I've always been around fitness, always been around sports. Had the opportunity to coach or, do some opportunity at a Muay Thai school. I coach CrossFit unofficially, for a couple of years. So I've always been in and around the fitness world. But I think over the last 3 to 4 years is where I really saw it kind of take root and see a vision and a future for myself and kind of a place for something that I could bring to the conversation and bring to the table, as far as fitness in my community. I would say over the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. I like that you said bring something to the conversation, because that's kind of like the rationale. Sometimes I like to share rationales for why I ask questions. And I think on one end, like fitness or just certain topics in general should be important to all of us, right? Ideally. But naturally, clearly there's going to be some of us, and by us, I mean you and people like you, who definitely get passionate about topics. Well, for me, it might be self-leadership, but and for you, it's fitness. And I think that it's important for us to pay attention to those passions, because somewhere along the path, some of us become like a voice or coach in that arena. And so, fitness is clearly something that you're passionate about. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
so have you always struggled with your weight prior to you being the fit version of you? And we're going to get into that. But have you always struggled with your weight prior to that? Was that like something that you dealt with for a long time?
I would say around college was the first time that I kind of made the connection that um, fitness was a way for me to lose weight and to change my body image. Prior to college, I had just been involved in intramural sports, school sports, wrestling. And so fitness and that, you know, framework of my life was more or less just about being active, learning sports, looking for opportunities for college and scholarships and, being around friends and just, I kind of grew up in our generation where you kind of almost played a sport. Like, okay, what do you go? I don't play baseball.
Yep.
I play basketball. I don't play basketball. Well, I run track. I don't run track, but I swim. So everybody kind of had a sport kind of growing up, which is one of the beautiful things about when we were growing up. So, but it wasn't, like I said, it was around college that I saw, I'm overweight and fitness is one of the ways that I can not be overweight.
Yeah. I like that, because you know what? Well, I will say that, and this is where it's important to have that conversation with like male, female, because I always kind of talk about the fact that, and of course there are many, many female athletes, but I feel like especially during, I don't know, our generation, that well, I got plenty of fitness in jumping double dutch. The girls don't jump
Hmm.
double dutch anymore, but I
Right,
like I used to go for rounds and rounds and rounds. So listen, your girl was probably fit, but
right.
I do feel like in terms of sports, it's often more so. I don't know if you agree that it's encouraged with boys than girls growing up. At least that was my experience, and it's not that it's not there, but I think that somewhere, maybe it's subliminally that girls maybe we can start to lose that, unless you're very, people like notice straight away that you're very talented at something. But I think that that's not necessary, that sports can just be a place where you gain confidence, or like you said initially, it was just a way that you focused on being active.
Hmm. Yeah, there is unfortunately, and I live in the gym world, so I do come in contact with, hundreds of I know, follow, I have been coached by a lot of brilliant female athletes. But, that's not to say mainstream media kind of does portray fitness, weightlifting, aggression, as something that is male dominated. And oftentimes, it's funny, a lot of times when I'm trying to encourage, a woman to, pick up a weight or do something
Mhm.
more active, the very first like automated response out of their mouth is going to be, "Well, I don't want to look like a man," or
Yeah.
I don't want to look like a bodybuilder." And it's an interesting mentality because like it really just shows like you really don't know what the other side of this life is. Like it's like somebody encouraging somebody to go to church. They're like, I don't want to go to church because I don't want to become TD Jakes. Like, no, no, no. It's a lot of
There's a
that
lot of
happens.
things. Yeah.
Right, right. So,
Yeah.
so if you, young lady, start lifting weights 3 times a week for the next 2 years, you will not look like a bodybuilder. It's just like you would
Yeah.
literally have to change your diet dramatically. You would have to lift 4 or 5 hours a day, take all types of supplements just to begin to change your physique. But
Yeah.
it's a shame because that false fear kind of like just inhibits somebody from even having a conversation of going to the gym. Like,
Yes.
no, I don't want to look manly. Like,
I
Listen.
agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that's so important. I love that you just spoke that like to the women. And like I think again with social media, the pros and cons of everything, people are definitely again the awareness is heightened and women are doing things that maybe before, like you said, there was just a spirit to do it. And maybe as we get more of these examples, what fitness looks like or what lifting weights look like, for women, etc. But I just think that was really good because I just don't, sometimes you don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Was it a
Hmm.
cultural thing that told women, this is sports is more of a man thing, and of course that aspect was there, but I think also internally, girls just you kind of get to a grade where even in school they talk about that, not to go on this whole tangent that females start to think or you start getting fed this message from somewhere that don't show you're so smart or don't show you're so talented in this area or that area. And so regardless, I think that's really cool. And I don't say that to shade the guys. I say that to really say I love that growing up men had that outlet to really focus on sports. And I really think that is something that everybody needs across the board. So, to move forward, you said that fitness, initially sports was just a way to get active. And then you started to realize that you could use this fitness to lose weight and kind of achieve the health goals that you had for yourself. So at your heaviest, and I asked this for a reason, so hopefully this doesn't sound intrusive, but at your heaviest, how much did you weigh? Or if you don't want to give numbers, paint a picture, I guess, for the audience, just in terms of progress, where you were and where you are now.
So I'm grateful that you asked that question, and I purposely leave my like one of my heavy pictures up on my social media because
Mm,
I always like leave it there as a constant reminder for myself of the progress that I've made. Because so to answer your question, at my heaviest, there's a few like markers. You know how they talk about, and this is where, and hopefully we'll get into this, the beautiful synergy between mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. You
mm-hmm.
know how they talk about in mental health these different events that cause trauma, that cause triggers in your life that happen, being in relationships or
Yes.
traumatic incidents and what they cause and how we deal with them. And you've covered them in your podcast previously. But I have certain markers that I remember in my heaviest. So one of them was right after I graduated college. My aunt Deborah wanted to take me suit shopping because that's what we do in our community is when your black male son or nephew graduates, you get him a suit, get him ready
Yes.
for his interview, which is
Preferably
something that I did
pastel
not.
colors.
No, 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 no. That's the Easter suit. No,
That's
no,
the
no.
Easter suit. Yes. Not
No,
you're
your
right. Yes.
college suit is like the black or gray
The
or the
black or
blue,
gray or blue. Yes.
getting you ready. And it's funny too because and we're getting way off tangent, but it's something that I didn't realize that white people don't always have to do because I've met a lot of white people in my field that didn't experience that. I was like, really, your family didn't go buy you suits when you graduated? Like, no, I didn't. But yeah, I was getting fitted for a suit, and I thought that I wore a 46 or 48 because I like my suits fitting tight because I was always overweight, so I used to wear my clothes extra snug to make me look like fit a little bit. This was like before they started having dry fit clothes and spandex and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So the tailor at the store said, "No, sir, your suit is not supposed to pull like that in the back. It's
Mm-hmm.
too tight. If you can't close your arms and do this motion with your arms, your
Right.
suit jacket is too tight." So my aunt said, "Okay, we'll bring him the next size up," and he bought me the next size up, which was a 48. Jacket still, it was looser, but the jacket still did the same thing across my back. Still got tight across my back. Couldn't hug myself, And so finally, I ended up with like a size 52 suit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my aunt saying, like, kind of, but later on, when I began my weight loss journey and I started to lose weight from there, she told me how she was almost in tears in the suit store because she had to buy me such a large size. She didn't even really realize how large I had gotten. The second mile marker is like the day my nephew was born. Um, Jasir, 16, almost 17 years old now. And it's me standing, I have a yellow polo shirt on and I'm standing in front of this big bay window um, talking on the phone, like telling somebody about, his birth or whatever. And I remember when somebody took a picture of me. I remember when I saw the picture, I was like, damn, like in that
Yeah.
yellow polo shirt, I look big as the sun. And then I
No.
saw that picture and I was like, yo, I've got to start to do something about my weight.
Mm.
Um, so it's certain things like that. So I think at the heaviest, the pound wise, I think I was around 270, 280. Um, sleep apnea, pre diabetes,
Wow.
pre blood pressure numbers were high. Um, but I was exercising, so I thought I was, doing the right thing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Like the transparency there, I really appreciate it because again, I asked that picture not to be like in your numbers, but like I said, just to paint a picture of progress. And I think you said some important things there. One, like the picture that you keep up. And it kind of goes to where I wanted to go next in terms of our awareness, right? Like that sometimes we have no idea how we're transforming and how things are changing, or and like you said, talking about spiritual or physical or mentally, how we're getting heavy in certain areas. And it's not until that something prompts us, like, where things don't fit right or things are not going right, that now we get this huge wake up call, like, oh, hold up, like, hold on now.
Right,
They said, the
right.
commercial said, raise your hands if you're sure. And I can't raise my
Yeah.
hands, is what Brother John said.
Right, right, right,
Right.
right.
No, yeah, thank you so much for being transparent in the area. That was, yeah, that you said a lot. And just also just like all those health issues that you were potentially going to make worse. So, with that said, I want to talk a little bit like, how did you get quote unquote there? Like, how do you think? You started out the episode saying that you played sports and you exercise, and so you didn't really see or understand maybe potentially how you got there. But how would you say, looking back, that you got to this place where now your weight was out of control and your health was in jeopardy?
Um, it was a gradual process. I had a few things working, like a lot of us do. I had a few things working against me as far as my health was concerned. My mom always attributed, and I say these things because oftentimes we look at people and we judge them and their weight and like think about it as like, oh, that's just a lifestyle choice that they made or they're lazy. And a lot of times there's so many other layers that go into it. So like one of the
Mm-hmm.
first things my mom talks about is how sick she got when I was uh in utero. She unfortunately did not know to stop drinking milk when she was pregnant with me.
Okay.
And she got extremely sick, lost weight. And I was born. And so she believes that my addiction to food started prenatally, and just that she was so sick because she was throwing up everything. My mom, I can't know exactly, but I think she weighed like 130 when she got pregnant. When she delivered me, she was like 126. She
Wow.
actually lost weight during her pregnancy. So she always felt like I was looking for nutrients. And she always tells the story of like how even as a little kid, prior to me being overweight, like I would watch her unpack the groceries and I would watch where she put the groceries away.
Right.
And then like when she would tell me what's for dinner, I would say, and she would and I would say, and I would just wait. I would wait till like my addiction to food, like even now in my adult age, and I have to learn how to channel. Like I won't go anywhere if I don't know what I'm going to eat, what type of food is on the menu. I'll pack a snack. I'll bring food with me. Is food in my car? Is food in my desk drawer? Like I have I have an addiction to food, and my mom believes, which I can understand, that it started neonatally. The other thing that I have working against me in my favor, is that I was a really, really good cook, in that
Mm. I
arena.
have seen some of your plates now, John. Now you didn't give me none. That's an offense. But okay, continue.
so, so,
Yes.
so growing up, my mom, she says she didn't, but I think she inspired me to cook. And I love food. So I had a food addiction. I learned how to cook and I learned how to cook well and I learned how to cook soul food. well. And, I learned how to barbecue well, and macaroni and cheese was done well. So a lot of times I fell victim to the mentality that you can out train a bad diet. And
Mm,
so I would eat whatever I wanted and I would justify it with, oh, well, I'm going to the gym in the morning, or, oh, I'm going for a run in the morning.
yeah.
Um, and it's a self-defeating like mentality, because like when you're trying to lose weight, you actually have to kind of cut back a little bit. You just can't, go all willy-nilly with the food. So, um,
I love that you said that. Don't forget your thought. I really do. I love that you said that because one, I was going to ask, like, did you feel like you had a food addiction? And you said, yeah, that you and I don't know if you have any thoughts like towards that like what made you know in terms of mindset. But like you said, you have food everywhere. But um, I just really like that you said you tried to pretty much you thought you were countering that just because you were being active, but it's like the two sides of the coin. And this really goes to the point of our relationship with food and exercise, like that is not just one of the two. And I do see people, particularly men. So I got a question about this, but first we'll focus here. But just I'm gonna eat what I want to eat. I have a friend in mind. I mean, my husband. We always well, I don't gotta say my husband. You know him. I mean, Rico always joke about,
right.
and he like exercises, lifts, has the muscles, but eats terribly. And I'm like,
Hmm.
sir, it's showing. The food is showing.
Hmm.
Just in case you didn't realize it. So there is a huge relationship with food and exercise, right?
Right. And the other thing too is it's such a complicated thing. Like a lot of times you think somebody is going to the gym to be healthy.
Mm,
And for a large majority of my life, it, like because health is such it's not a two-sided coin. It's like a 10-sided. I don't know what the 10-sided figure is, a
right.
hectagon or something. It's like a hectagon. There are so many sides and angles to the health thing. And so a lot of times, like you will see people who go to the gym and lift, and the sad thing is, like and this is when it also kind of came clear to me that I really need to watch my eating. Like when you look at the end of life of bodybuilders,
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Coleman, a lot of those guys, you look them up on YouTube, they end up having liver issues, kidney
Yeah.
issues, heart issues over time, because while your outward muscles and your stomach can take, a
Mm,
pounding, can eat that stuff, your organs only have, like, your organs don't get, like, your liver doesn't learn how to digest more protein. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like your heart doesn't learn how to process all of that caffeine from all of those pre-workout shakes that you've been taking for the last 20 years doing, strenuous
Yeah.
workout after strenuous workout. And so while they may look good now, the fourth quarter of their lives, they end up paying for the abuse of their body the same way somebody that eats cheesesteaks every weekend and develops heart. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
God developed our bodies as systems, and anytime you max out or stress a part of that system, it will start to take and eat away at other parts. It may be end of life. It may be at your blood pressure. It may be at, your ability to sleep. It may be at your ability to function. Um, but yeah, and so I really had to kind of understand that eating was just as much as important, if not more important, than my fitness. Um, and that's when it really began to kind of the numbers on the scale began to move faster for me.
Wow. That that was that was the moment. That was very helpful. I'm sure for the listeners, but even for me, and it's not like anything that I haven't heard or don't know. However, just the way you really broke that down with outward muscles versus internal organs, and just us keeping in mind that is not just the outward appearance, which we say we know, but we can try to max out and try to again like get those results in the areas that we want without matching it internally. And that was a very great point. So I want to backtrack this just a little bit. So you kind of started speaking to how you started to get aware, right? Because I think that's a really big part of this, like us getting aware that we're not at a place that we want to be physically or nutritionally, whatever, it is. But how did you also start to set goals for yourself? I think people will want to know that.
Um, so I think, and obviously, and I hate to, I'm not trying to make myself sound like a guru or anything like that, but the level that I got to came from 15, 16 years of exercise, broad street runs, yo-yo dieting, going to the gym, losing sleep, overeating, and doing all of these things. But the greatest synergy that I've found so far right now is the understanding of the God ordained connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Mm.
Um,
That.
and so when you start setting goals, particularly for believers, it is important that you identify and are always progressing towards advancing all three or
Mm-hmm.
using one to advance the other as opposed to focusing on the one or focusing on the fitness goal or focusing on the spiritual goal or focusing on just on mental health. And not to say that those disciplines do not have benefits in their individual perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
However, for me, myself, and for other people who call themselves believers, it is of the utmost importance that you understand how God has already ordained and planned for those things to work, to strengthen, to nurture, to edify each other. So like a lot of times people start working out, they want to, I want to lose weight. I want to lose my stomach. Okay, that's great. But one of the first things that you're going to like one of the first residual effects that you're going to get from exercising is you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
better during the daytime. Your outlook on life, your energy level, the way that you sleep, your, I don't know how rated the show is, but your everything works better once you start exercising and
We know
taking
what you're
care
saying,
of
John.
it.
We know what you're
Right,
saying.
right. Everything works start taking care of your health. So you show up to your relationships differently. You show up to your job interview differently. So you may not lose the stomach for Miami in the next 6 weeks. However, if you start to make little changes, you will see benefits in your mental health. You will see benefits in your spiritual health. You will see yourself the way that you will begin to see yourself more the way that God sees you, and not the way that you've eaten yourself, unfortunately. So, um, I hate to give like okay, you set a goal and, you know, everybody has something different. You may start to walk, somebody else may join the gym. I think one, increasing your physical activity and just knowing and then understanding how will these physical things help me mentally? How will these things help me spiritually? And what lessons do have I already conquered in the mental health game, or what lessons have I already conquered in the spiritual health game, and how can I apply that to this new area of my life of fitness?
I love that. Okay, so I like to try to again like recap or just make sure I'm hearing like correctly too. So correct me if I'm wrong. So one for the listeners, I always say because this is not, and I don't know if faith based is not the is not the is the best term because I always share that I'm a person of faith. So anything I do is based on faith. However, I don't I understand that not all listeners share the same background or beliefs that I do. And I think that truths are truths and principles are principles. And so what I bring in, hopefully I find that, if it's truth and if it's a principle, it will help someone regardless of where they are. So what I want, and the reason why I say that is because you don't, John is speaking to his truth, and it's very important that he speaks to it authentically, as is.
Hmm.
However, I like the listeners to try to find common ground. And so essentially what John is saying, if and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's more to us, which I think everybody subscribes to this than just our physical beings. We have a mind, we have a body, we have a spirit. And that mind is our soul, etc. Listen to the identity episode, y'all, if y'all haven't. However, we have all those three things that are playing a part. And so if there was a playbook that you could give the listeners in terms of setting goals, what you're saying is that first we have to understand that connection. And instead of trying to look at, I remember growing up, everything was about the BMI, whereas now we understand that's very inaccurate and doesn't really give a good depiction of healthy body composition or healthy body. You're saying start with understanding that there's a connection between all these areas, and then start to identify, different goals that you have in those areas. But not just that, what I heard you say is to pay attention to the lessons or things that you've overcome in one area, because is what I'm assuming, or actually, why are you saying that? Because it'll now strengthen you to understand, if I can do this here, then I can do that there. And if it's important for me to be healthy mentally, then it's important for me to be healthy physically. And if, spirituality is important to me, I can't be, talk about that, God wants greatness for my life, but yeah, I can't breathe, I can't walk, I can't bend down. It's a tad hypocritical. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful way. That's a beautiful way of putting it. And I have an analogy that I've kind of been working on, but just to give you an example of how the synergy works and how I wasn't expecting it to work. And just over the last 10 months, um, God has just blown my mind. Not to say that, I haven't lived a great life prior to, and I was trying to explain it to my wife because, she's a pastor, Pastor
Mm-hmm.
Ruth,
Oh, we're
shameless
gonna
plug.
talk about that, John. We're gonna talk about it.
But no, I was trying to explain to her one Sunday morning about how amazing I felt after I was coming from the gym and I was going to church. And I was trying to tell her that, like, because I didn't believe in the diet that I had, and I asked God for the faith. And he showed up in the diet. I've kept the diet. And now I'm in the gym doing exercises with a level of strength that I did not think possible. And I did it at a time where I had cut off, and I didn't know that I was going to. I had cut off secular music to myself when I was in the gym. Which, if you know any man that is like, you can have, I know pastors who will bench press the DMX. Like, and there's no judgment on my part. I
Listen,
have all the
DMX is my favorite artist. I have shared that
right,
numerous times on this. But go ahead.
right.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
But
That makes sense. Yeah.
in my gym lane, I never saw God challenging me, and I began
Mm,
to listen to worship music as I lifted, and I
wow.
explained to my wife that, like, I'm eating the food, getting the energy, and then using the energy and doing things that I did not expect in the gym, set after rep after exercise. So I am literally having spiritual experiences and I'm listening to worship music. So I'm literally having spiritual experiences while I'm squatting. And people will be like, nah, like, no, it really is and can be that deep. If you have been like me, where you have struggled with your weight, and if you find a way to attach your spiritual and mental health to your weight loss, it means the world. That's why I don't care to post pictures of how I look now,
Mm-hmm.
because the progress means so much more to me. So just getting back to a point or analogy that I like to use to help people understand the synergy, because, you know, um, the, 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 the main guy in my book, he like taught in parables or whatever. So I like to try to uh, find parables that people can equate to try to
Mm-hmm.
help my message stick. And so, like, one of the things that I like looking at is, like, you can have, everybody has like a iPhone or a Apple phone, and there are a lot of beautiful features that are in the iPhone, but there are other products that Apple makes. One of the other products that Apple makes that, goes with the iPhone is a Apple Watch. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know people that have Apple Watches and don't have iPhones. It's weird, but I know people that do it, and they use their Apple Watch. They'll text on it. They'll use it for the activity rate, and they'll just use it for a watch. But it's something different when you have an Apple phone and an Apple Watch. You know what I mean? Because Apple has pre-programmed or pre-designed those two things to work together.
Together.
And
Hmm.
and sometimes there are connections that the watch and phone have that you don't even know how to utilize. So you could be and I remember, like, you know, if you lose one of the worst things in the world to do is like lose your cell phone. You can't find your cell phone, running late, can't get out the house, don't know my phone.
Right.
Hey, babe, can you call my phone? Can somebody call my phone? But there, and it's like Apple kind of knew that, right?
Yeah.
And they put a little shortcut in your Apple Watch where you scroll up on the screen and you could ding your phone. As long as your phone was in 20 feet radius of you, you could ding your phone from your watch.
Hmm.
But it's only if you kind of, and I've been around people that did not know that, hey, you got an Apple Watch, right? You can just use your watch to find your phone, right? And so there is a connection in the same way that like an Apple phone and an Apple Watch and an iPad work together, and the programmers of those devices have kind of thought about the shortcomings of human beings and how we can make
Hmm.
all these things work together. That is how God designed our body. Our body and our spirit are meant to be connected.
Yeah.
Our mind and our body are meant to be. There is. It's not by. It's not by circumstance that working out releases the same endorphins that we get from drugs, from sex, from music. It's
Yeah.
not by accident. You know what I mean? Like the neuroplasticity that you see in the brain and you see in trauma work, you see when
Yep.
people begin to exercise. They begin to reduce their blood pressure. They begin to reduce the need for diabetic medication. But if you don't connect those things, you just be walking around with an Apple Watch and no Apple phone. And it's not a
Mm.
bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But man, if you know how to make, you know,
Yeah.
you could control your camera on your phone from your watch. You can turn your camera on and take pictures from your watch. Like people just don't even know that. And that's how the mind and body, and the more you start to use it, the more you're like, dang, I didn't know I could do
Yeah.
that, and the third. But that's,
The more you start to use those other areas, like your spirit and your mind, to fuel the physical goals, is what you're saying.
yeah, the more
Yeah,
powerful it becomes. The more powerful it becomes.
absolutely. I really love that. And I'll tell you why, because I mean, obviously, I always, I just try to keep people like just, aware as to there's a reason why we're talking about these topics. We're not talking about these topics to be like, it's 2024, get in the gym. That's one side, that's fine and dandy. But, again, if we're talking about self-leadership through setbacks, all these things are connected. And I particularly in the past couple episodes have been sharing how there are these skills that we really need to prioritize. Like, is enough is enough as people, not just as adults, but people who are hungry for progress. And I hear a lot of conviction in what you're saying. And so we talk about self leadership, this is one of those areas. Like, and this is for me. Like I always say, I'm very selfish with these topics sometimes, where I'm like, what I need to get right. And I'm like, let me get John on here to tell me how to get my life right physically. But it's so true, because I think sometimes we see people who work out, and again, this is for everyone. I think we can see this a lot too when if we don't know, or people don't make that spiritual connection, right? We see people who work out and we think that they're solely doing it for vain reasons. But if they are doing it just so they, not just, but to like what they see in the mirror, that's still a great reason. However, what you're saying is that we could also take that, or if that's not your reason, or if you're not motivated there yet because you just haven't, maybe your confidence is deflated because of failures in the past in this area. What I've noticed is that people who like subscribe to your frame of thought, they start to get very happy, like almost high off of going to the gym, high off of getting fit, high off of feeling, like
You mean like the
nutritionally.
same high? You mean like the same
Yes.
high that I bet you get when you sing in front of church? You mean like the same high that people get when they do ministry?
Yes.
You know, the same high that people get when they, have mental release or they do grounding work.
Yeah.
They're- all of those things is, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that once we start to understand, like, and I started paying attention to that. Like everybody who's subscribing to this thought of understanding that my fitness, my health is really important. I noticed this high, and I think what it is, and you could correct me again or share your insight, is that you start to realize that this is an area. What I think is important, like even from a spiritual standpoint, the reason why it's so important to physically like what you see, why the reason why it's important to physically feel healthy, the reason why it's important to really feel and see the progress that you were just talking about is because this is it's not the only area, but going in a gym or seeing progress in your diet or in your health is one of the few areas visually I think that we can now start to form an accountability and see that nobody can go in the gym for me, right? And get me the
Mm-hmm.
result I want. Nobody can, eat my broccoli for me and get me the digestive health that I need. No one
Mm-hmm.
can, do the meditation or the runs and the walks that for me and me get the mental clarity that I need. So it's a really high representation or a great way to like show discipline and accountability, and it's a way that you could just look in the mirror and say I did this. And
Mm-hmm.
for us, like I did this with the help of God, I did this with the help of a coach, I did this with
Yeah,
the help
oh
of a
my goodness.
trainer, like I did this. And that's I want that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Because
yeah.
that's what you have, and essentially when and for the viewers, that when I look at you and I look at the relationship that you have and I look at the children that you built and I look at the degree that you have and I look at the job that you have and I look at
Mhm.
the people that you helped and I've looked at the way that you're able to provide, you could look back and say, me and God, we did that.
Come on
You
now,
know what I mean?
John. I'm
But it's
yes.
the same thing when you look
Yeah.
at your body, when you look at your health, when you and see the flip side, the
Wow.
sad side is, and when it became like dire for me to understand that it's is imperative for me to begin to synergize my spirituality and my physical fitness is, you know, dating a pastor. I have been around her many of times and getting phone calls on Friday and Saturday night from visiting pastors or people that were supposed to come preach, and they can't come because of
Mm.
their gout
Come on.
flared up or because their blood pressure was high, and like, and I'm kind of minimalizing the things because but they're
Hmm.
magnified when they're going through the life of the person. But as a health fanatic, I'm listening to this conversation. We all process information differently, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting here listening like, this person can't preach the word of God today because of a disease that we could have prolonged or prevented.
Prevent it. Hmm.
That is ungodly. Now, we don't look at it like that because we make these
Yeah.
like, night and day like decisions on what you eat, choosing not to work out. So you're not looking at, okay, when I turn 60, I'm going to have to cancel this preaching engagement because my, you know, because of this health issue. We don't look at it like that. But in actuality, that's what it is. And I really started to say, like, yo, it's not, you know, and even in that, I have some beliefs about, predisposition to diseases and different things like that. But it's not of God for us not to be able to do his work because we are unhealthy in our old age. I think back to like our generation, Kim, like we had great grandparents. Like
Hmm.
I remember having friends that had one or two great grandparents.
Hmm.
We're growing up in a generation now where we are dying off sooner and sooner and
Yeah.
sooner, and nobody's sitting back and looking and saying, this is the stronghold.
Mm. Yeah. I
This
really love
is
what you're
not of
saying. Yeah, I hear so much accountability and I really love this. And yeah, and you know, we have other areas to go, but I really want to highlight that this is no. I really want to highlight and thank you for the accountability aspect because this platform is all about accountability, like through accountability, through ownership and growth. that's how we will catapult ourselves through setbacks. And you're talking very heavy because I love what you're saying, because of course, and one, I want all the listeners to understand there's no judgment here. Like, how can I judge? Like, he just told you about his own personal journey. So there can be judgment there. However, we have to understand the accountability aspect, and just you saying the fact that it's not the things that we've been predisposed to, it's not environment. We have talked about on this podcast that there are things we can't control. But if we have to deal with so much of the things that we can't control, let's not add to our plate with the things that we can control. And that's really what I hear you saying, that the areas that we have control of, which are a lot. Sometimes we don't want to admit that there's so many areas that we can control. Let's not add to that and then turn around and kind of look at it like, well, my potential, my influence has been cut short on account of my actions. And not just that, but just from a people who do subscribe for faith with faith, my pastor, he always talks about that. It's not just God can only be God in our lives as much as in terms of the way that we see him. So sometimes I think people who subscribe to faith, you believe God for, and this might have, again, to do with your religious environment or beliefs, or limited beliefs, etc. You believe God for maybe healing, or some people don't even believe him from that. They believe him for maybe just the basement level foundation of just keep me from quote unquote sin. However, beyond that, like, what else can you believe God for? And that's what I hear you saying. Like, it's all about partnership. And for people who, and I always say this, like, it's important to be accountable, because people who don't subscribe to faith, a lot of times when they're turned off by people of faith is because there's that lack of accountability when our faith preaches partnership. And so where's the partnership to say, if you're saying quote unquote, I can do all things through Christ, where is the accountability? Where is the partnership to get up and do all things? Yeah, I'm talking to myself. You're really talking heavy.
No,
And
no, no.
yeah, I love what you're saying.
I like that piece that you said about how your pastor said you can say that again. You can only see God how, or God.
Like, pretty much God, yes, is he can only show up as in terms of the way that you get the God that you see is the God that you get. That's how I was saying, and I think that's how he
And,
says it. And when we see him small, then he's only going to show up small, because you have to leave room, or you have to partner to believe that larger things can take place. And so when we're only seeing him as the God of our ethics or our morals, I'll generalize it like that.
Sex, drug, and rock and roll, right?
Yes, exactly. But you don't want to live in abundance, like in terms of other areas, then
Right.
yeah, we're limited.
No, and that is truly, truly the place that I had to get to, and had to really, like, scripturally begin to dig. If you, and you're a nurse, and maybe it'll just take a conversation, but when you look at the way that the body operates, the way the systems work together, the way they recover, the way exercise can rejuvenate the body, the lymphatic system, that's in the scriptures, reaping and sowing, and there's a time, like, all of that stuff. And so your point of only being able to see God, like, I had to begin to look at God and my fitness and saying, no, God, if God designed my heart to be stronger after going for a run, then this is my worship. Like, this is what I need to, if I'm losing weight and extending my life and bettering the quality of my life, then this is the work that God is allowing me to do. This is what God wants me to do. And so many times where we fall short with, like you asked me about goal setting, is we don't know to invite God into the gym. We think that is something that either we want to look like because we're going to Miami, or because the doctor told us that we need to get fit. But it's like, if you will pray to God for a job, if you will pray to God for a wife or a husband, or what house you should buy, or what car you should buy, like, super saints do, then how could you not pray to God and ask him what you should do, how you should move, how much you should move, how you should care for how could you not invite God if you do it every day?
Yeah. And then there's the aspect too of just having the wisdom to understand, like, your body needs to move like, and it's not taking anything away from what you're saying. It's just this the fact of once you're praying for strength, you're praying for, yeah, like you said, to set goals, but you don't have to, that's not an area. Like if you have a headache, you're going to take Tylenol. Thank God for science. Thank God for, so we have to
Right.
also marry our wisdom with that. Like, you have a body and your body needs to function. And it's been proven that
Hmm.
our body needs activity. We need fresh air. We need all these things in order to, to optimize. So I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to ask you, I guess I want to get some practical tips from you, because I know that people are definitely going to want this. If we're in a gym, let's say I have goals for my weight, where would you recommend? And I understand, like, like you said, you're not a trainer. However, you're a fitness enthusiast. You've made huge progress. I mean, I remember the first time I saw you. So for people who don't know, I went to college with John.
Hmm.
Westchester U. Go
Yeah,
Rams.
Ramses, baby.
Yeah. And then when I met you, I had no idea. That's when I learned that you actually went to high school with my husband. So there's a connection there. And then as John kind of threw it in there, but we gonna get there. I got a little, just not too much. I ain't gonna mess with him too much. We got a segment dedicated solely to the fact that John married my previous pastor. I want y'all to know, okay? That,
I didn't see that coming.
yeah, yeah.
That was a slick move.
Yes, but around that time when y'all were dating, or I didn't know, and I saw you, I remember you saying, "Kim, don't act like you don't see me." John, when I say I did not know it was you, in the face, I kept saying, "That guy looks like John," but I had not seen you in years. I was like, "That look like John Groce," and
Mhm.
it wasn't until I think I walked past you maybe 3 or 4 times. It was that night when I coordinated that concert, and when you said Kim, don't act like, I'm like, John, like, anyway, so moving
But
forward.
see, but see, but see, and here, hold on. I'm sorry, but
No,
here's
don't be
my
sorry.
perspective. When I hear you say that, and just implementing like the things that I did and how I see it now to grow. When I hear you say that, you know what scripture I hear my spirit is saying? In
What?
Christ, all things are brand new.
Come on
And
now.
because I have seen God in my so when you connected to my fitness, I always connected back to my faith. So and I
Yes.
connected back to the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm growing. So yeah, will you see that? Yeah, but it's just, I mean,
Yeah.
it was an experience. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yes, no. I mean, round of applause all the way. Like, and like we said, it's not about the solely about the physical aesthetic. If we always talk about people's why power, like what keeps you motivated. For some people, maybe the Miami abs are what keep you motivated. Well, go on now, start with the Miami abs, and later down the line, start to get the spiritual and the mental and all that fortitude tied in there, because it's important.
Mhm.
But if for somebody else, if it is the spiritual or the mental, start there, and then you'll start to naturally, because I always talk about this, life is integrated. You'll start to, you have no choice. You're meant for wanting progress in all areas. You're going to start to have those goals for yourself physically, and it might not solely be an aesthetic thing, but we talked about that today. We're visual beings, and there's nothing wrong with looking at yourself and saying, like Adam said when he saw Eve, whoa, man, girl,
Right,
you
right,
look
right,
good.
right, right,
You're a
right,
big
right.
fine woman. Okay. You look and same thing for you, John. Like, no, great job. So, all right, let's say we're in the gym, John. Listen, I told you this is for selfish reasons, and I have goals for my weight. Where would you recommend, as somebody who has made all this progress? You're definitely someone we can come to and say, teach me a little something. Where do we start?
I think that you know how they say it's very it's a it's a gray area. You know how they're
Mhm.
saying like age ain't nothing but a number.
Yeah.
Weight ain't nothing but a number.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we all, plain English, just want to look good naked. At the end of the day, it don't matter. It don't matter if you weigh 178, 180, 195.
Exactly.
We have these fictitious like we create this like body in our mind, and we think that this is how I truly in my weight loss experience, and a good fitness coach told me this. His name is Jerry Walsh. He was my weightlifting coach. And a long time when I first started losing weight, I told him how much weight I wanted. He was like, "Listen, don't chase weight, chase performance."
Come
I
on.
was like,
I
what?
like that.
And I didn't understand it, but it has become one of the stickers in my head, so much because you don't know that weight loss goal. You don't know what your body is going to look like once the fat comes off, once the muscle builds, once the
Mm-hmm.
bones like, structure themselves, once you lose the inflammation. You don't know how much inflammation and junk you're carrying around in your gut. You don't know what you're going to look like. But what you can do is chase the performance. And those are more little goals. So like, okay, I used to walk a mile. Now I can jog half a mile and walk half a mile. I used to run 3 miles. Now I can run 5 miles. I used to, and those progressive goals are ones that can always be the progress forward. If you get, like, you set the goal, like, all right, let's say now I weigh 170. I want to lose weight and weigh 150. Once you hit 150, you may stop or you may pull back on its
Mm-hmm.
reps. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, if you set those progressive goals, it's like, okay, all right, now I ran 5 miles. All right, well, now actually let me enter a race. Like, I ran 5 miles in, an hour. Let me see if I can get it done in 55 minutes. Those are the
Yeah.
ways that I think that people should kind of scale your goals so that you can kind of see those little micro bites of progress.
I really like that. That speaks to capacity, like how you just kind of talk about there's no lid to how much we can progress. Like so, like you said, if you could do 3 miles in a couple minutes, maybe next time you could do 3 miles in a shorter time frame and just all those different things. Yeah. So
You
continue.
know,
Yeah.
most athletes, when you get to that peak level of what you see, we rarely step on the scale. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I want my chest to be a little bit big. We may
I
measure some
like
things for some
that.
people, but we rarely, because it doesn't really matter. Like, I want to get better at my pull-ups. I want to be able to do 17 pull-ups in a row. I'm not stepping on a scale and measuring. It's just not as important unless you're in a competition for something where you have to weigh a certain weight.
Yeah.
Most athletes, you don't really, like, I step on the scale maybe 3, 4 times a year. To be honest with you, I really only step on the scale like 3, 4 times a year.
I really love that. Don't chase weight, chase performance. And that really speaks to the fact that like how people say you're in a competition with yourself. So even though, like you said, weight ain't nothing but a number. My weight
Hmm.
is not, like you said, not important. It's not that you can't know, but that number compared to who? What does it mean? Versus if I can do a pull up and I never could, and if I can lift, this amount of weight and I never could, that's gold right there.
And
That
and
really
and
is.
and, it speaks to so here's more of the synergy. Like, the data says that the mind can only really compute or think of about 10% of what the body is actually capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can only really see about 10% of our true potential. Like, we have all this unlocked, and a lot of times your mind, the negative thoughts, a lot of stuff that you've covered in other podcasts are the things that stop our progress.
Yep.
So when you go to make that weight goal, you're doing it from a place of self-deficiency. You're doing it from a place of, I don't even think that this journey can even happen for me. So when you set that weight goal,
Yep.
it's like, so to be honest with you, when I first set my weight goal, when I was in that mindset of setting a weight goal, I weighed over 270 pounds. I wanted to see what I looked like at 225. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to see that. I thought that if I lost 50 pounds, that would be enough. 225. Got down to 225, wasn't enough. I still had more weight to lose. Got down to, below 200. And that was around the time where it began, like, yo, don't chase weight, chase performance. And like, that was the realest advice ever. It was because, like, it just started to flow, and you don't really care how much you weigh. You want to feel better, look better, sleep better, uh, do all those adult things
I
better.
know
I
what you
don't, I
just
don't
come
care.
on. I told you this is why we got the male energy on here. Because one thing
I don't care what I look like. I don't care how much I weigh. Like,
you just want to perform. He said he wants to
better.
perform.
You perform better. I just want to perform better. It don't matter
Exactly.
how much I weigh.
Yes. See, so all right. So you just brought up two things that I want to say. So first of all, I'm cracking up that you say you just want to perform. He like, I don't care. The roles could have stayed. The roles could have stayed. If they were there, I don't care if I was performing better. And I'm cracking up that you're saying that because one of the things that I have wrote down is just like, did when you felt like when you weren't performing well, like how did that affect your confidence? Or I guess I wrote it down with weight, but now that you're saying this, I'll say perform. If you when you weren't feeling like you were performing your best, how did that affect your confidence? Because one thing for sure, I got to say this on behalf of the ladies, men, y'all have the audacity to be confident no matter what. I don't know if you agree with this, but I
Right.
feel like if one thing men got, y'all got confidence, and if it's one thing y'all
Mm-hmm.
got, it's because y'all got audacity. And
Right.
it's funny
Right.
because y'all are very visual, I think. Like, everybody is to a degree, but so I think it's very interesting. I just from the male perspective in terms of when it comes to like, do you like men who maybe they can go a long time maybe with being not at their weight goals, do you think that they can do that is because they're not maybe marrying it to the fact that their performance is not what it could be? And once they get that light bulb, then that's what motivates men or people in general.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing and the dangerous thing and the same thing is that, the way our bodies are structured, the way our bodies are created, that they're always in a stage of healing, of fixing itself, of
Mm-hmm.
reproducing. And so you can begin to like make yourself believe that you are okay or that you are healthy or that everything is not that bad. Especially too when you look, around you, like, obesity, when they talk about obesity being an epidemic, like that does something to our psyche when everybody
Mm-hmm.
else is, when our behaviors are like, I have a joke that I send or I say to myself, like if I text my friends like, yo, who wanna go grab a drink? I'll get 8 replies. Yo, who wanna go? I'll get one. But so we as men have we kind of operate in a society where you can have other things and your weight not be as important as it is sometimes for women.
Thank
Um,
you. Yes. Thank you for saying that
so
because it's true.
right,
Because y'all could be out here with the belly and
right. You
y'all
put a
y'all
good
love
suit on
yourselves.
and a good tie. Right, right, right. You
You
good.
like, I'm big, I'm sexy. Yeah, I'm just like
That's it.
that movie. Yeah, Madagascar or whatever. So yes, very good. I thank you, John, for the honesty. And yes, I love that. And
But
maybe that what were you gonna say?
no, I was going to say, like, you kind of like alluded to, like, when was the signs of me not performing better, or how did that like affect me? Um, it was it was like a window into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had gotten, I started with the sleep apnea,
Mm-hmm.
um, the rolls on the neck, not being able to tie your shoes without, moving your stomach to the side. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
all of these markers uh being you know just walking through the grocery store like, hey, I'm gonna stick my arm in here, get my little diabetes numbers read, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start hitting the orange. You're not in the red, but you're in the yellow orange area.
Yep.
You're like, damn, when I get in the yellow orange, like
Yeah.
I'm sub 30, I'm walking around, I got children, I'm work every day, like how
Yeah.
how am I? And when those signs start to go off, you kind of gotta, and for me, it was a little bit harder because I was doing what I thought was the best thing, and I was exercising.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like spin my wheels and kind of justifying like, okay, and operating in that society where, men don't always have to like, take care of their body physically. So I was a little overweight, still doing my thing, taking care of myself, and then thinking that because I was exercising that I was okay. But,
Yeah.
just like those synergy things work, you can't stress one area and not kind of like focus on all of them. Like you have to be well rounded,
Yeah.
you know?
So how do we start to be content? This is definitely something that I wanted to ask, like just piggybacking off of all like the performance thing, right? Not chasing weight, chasing performance. I was thinking that a lot of times weight or the physical changes are last. to come. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I think that's where people lose their motivation. Or it's hard to be consistent because you're doing all this work. Like that could be deflating. You're doing all this work and you're like, I don't see the abs. Okay. I don't see the booty sitting up. And that's what I want to see. Like you said, we want to look good naked, which is the truth. So how do we start to learn to be content and just being the person who eats well or moves their body well, or, performs well without that instant gratification that we're visually looking for?
Okay. So it would have to go back to that one point that I said earlier about kind of learning the synergy. And you have, it's a book that I read. It says something like, our ways are not his ways. So unfortunately, when you're doing that goal setting, you're doing it from a not always the best perspective. So you kind of have to understand that the things that kind of you have to change what keeps you motivated. You have to kind
Mm,
of fall in love with who you're becoming, not necessarily the Instagram photo that you
mm-hmm.
want. And because the thing is, you never know if you're ever going to hit it. Like I have not hit, and my whole 16 years, and I want to say this openly, I have not achieved the the dramatic six pack that I assumed that all of this working out and all this eating and diet would give.
Wow. Yeah.
But but I am okay, and I love who I am now,
Mm-hmm.
that that to me, like I love the fact that I have the discipline to exercise. I love the fact that I have the discipline to eat better or to help other people eat better or to kind of teach other people about the benefits of exercise and diet. Um,
Yeah.
I wear a size 38 suit now. I'm down from a size 52.
Come on now,
If
drop the
that's
numbers.
not right, that like I may not have that six pack that I wanted, but I am nowhere near
Yeah.
the person that I used to be. And so it's unfortunate because when you set those goals, you are trying to set it to like, I want to look like this. And it's just like, you really don't know what that person had to put in or what the work that it
Mm-hmm.
has to do. But man, I've enjoyed my journey and I've enjoyed my experience. And I bless God for the man that, I am now at 40 years old. I told myself all the
40
times I was working.
where?
Yeah, right, right. I told myself all
No,
the time I
yeah.
was working out for my 40th birthday, I want to give myself a six pack. I want to get a six pack for my 40th. I do not have that six pack, but I am in better shape. I am in better
Yeah.
health. Have better mental clarity. And I couldn't ask God for will a six pack come? Maybe, but I'm trying to run a marathon. I'm trying to start,
Yeah. Me
a
too. I'm
eating
at,
ministry. Like I'm trying to do
yeah.
all these other things that like when you first started that one small goal of like, oh, I want to look good for Miami, man, you're gonna go to so many other places other than Miami in this lifetime
Yeah.
that fall in love with the journey,
Yeah.
like I used to
I
get up
think
at
you're answering that perfectly, like honestly, because if the question is how do we learn to be content before we see that actual visual representation, you're saying fall in love with who you're becoming is very important. So if right now, if week one, I'm the person who worked out for a week, like, and I never did that before, fall in love right there. And if by the end of the month, you're the person who managed to get all your veggie and fruit servings, whereas before it used to be all meat and all carb or all, you know what I mean? Like whatever your goals were,
right.
fall in love with that person. And if are like me, where as nurses, sometimes I'm terrible with my water intake. If you are doing better with your water, fall in love with that person. I love that. That's the answer. It wasn't the answer I knew I was looking for. I didn't know what you were going to say, but that is the answer, and I wholeheartedly love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fall in love with a better version of you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like that next step is beautiful. And when you look back over time, you be like, dang, I
Yeah.
never thought I was going, like, I never thought, like, at what I was heavy. I thought I was just going to be, I never thought, the other day, like, like I had to buy like an extra small shirt from Express Men's and I don't feel that. So I never thought that I
Yeah.
was, you know what I mean? That I was going to be able to do
Aw.
that. So it's just it's and I don't know. It was an interesting experience. So I'm not heavy no more. I'm not heavy no
Yes, come on, drop the
more.
title of the podcast. That is hashtag goals, John. It really is. I just love the way you're painting this visual. Just because something one of my mentors always talks about is just that sometimes we don't, like you said, you don't know what you look like at certain weight, like a certain weight or a certain goal. However, sometimes we got to focus on what might I miss out on, and what's the cost of not doing this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we could definitely quantify that. Like, you could quantify the fact that I'm pre-diabetic. You can quantify the fact that my blood pressure is high in my 30s. You could quantify the fact that I'm seeing people lose family members in their 50s or 60s. And as a nurse, I could definitely attest to like people having heart failure at younger ages. And I might not be able to quantify what I'm going to look at this weight or at this goal. But if I quantify all of that, I know that's not what I want. And I know that there's potentially something, not potentially, there is something on the other side that I want to see. I don't want to imagine my life without that. And you just being able to say, like, I never thought that I could, wear this size shirt or do XYZ. That's very motivating and very beautifully put. So I want to ask you about the fact that you're a father and a teacher and a husband. But like I said, I'm saving that for the very you're a father and a teacher. And first, let me just give you a couple seconds to just gush about those two beautiful areas of your life.
Well, I am father of six. My wife had five children on her previous relationship, and I had one. We have now a beautiful family of six. Um, and it has been an amazing experience and one that is constantly tied to how I eat and take care of myself and show up. As a dad, what I cook, what I let them see me doing, what I let them see me eating. Um, and then I am a teacher. I have worked in public education for the last 12 plus years. Um, and that has been another area where my health and fitness, it's so funny when I have students who see me and know me from back when I was big or, and they see me out now, they were like, yo, you look so good. Like, you look younger than
Wow.
me. Um, you know, but on a sadder note, it's very, very, because I realize I've been blessed with some knowledge and, healthy eating and some resources and some money that I can really, um, do what I want to do and take care of myself the way that I want to in the way that I feel like I should. But I work in a community where, that's not always the case. And it is disheartening sometimes when I watch, what food is available to my students, what they
Mm-hmm.
eat, on a regular basis, what they eat right before class, what they eat all day long. Just watching them lick Takis. It's funny.
Yeah.
I was in a regular grocery store. At first, it was just like a thing you saw in the hood. Now I go in a regular grocery store and everything is flaming hot, extra hot,
Yeah.
Takis, and that stuff is just like. I mean, you could know as a nurse, like that stuff has horrible effects on our insides, on our intestines, on your colon. And I literally watch my students eat and lick two bags. When they talk about food addictions, like
Mm-hmm.
imagine watching, beautiful children lick a whole, like not even eat the corn chip, but just lick the salt off the top.
Yeah.
That's that, and then I'm sitting here trying to be a vegan, trying to do the best that I can, and I'm like, my heart is bleeding right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, yeah, because when we were young, we definitely did a number on our bodies with going to the corner store and listen,
Right,
$2 could take you far. Okay. You got your
right, right.
hugs, you got your 4 bag of chips, and your fruities and all that stuff. But yes, it's just, yeah, it's things are different and the ingredients are even worse now. So
uh,
I heard you say something very special when you were talking about particularly being a father, but also being a teacher in terms of watching what you eat or letting that motivate you. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes I think, as I'm a parent too, we might tend to, kind of use those roles as a reason for why we can't, stay on our journey. However, you're saying
Mhm.
that you do. So how do you, if you had like a tip or two to give parents or working professionals or teachers, how do you stay consistent with those roles? Because power to the teachers who are also parents. I really got to say that, because I come home after work and I got my two and I got to do homework and dinner, but you already got a classroom full and then you still got a child at home or children
Right,
at
right,
home.
right, right.
So yeah, like how did you stay consistent while in those roles?
It can be difficult, like the uphill, like learning
Mm-hmm.
how to work out, learning how to implement that time. So when you're going up the hill, I would say the mantra is get in where you fit in. If
Okay.
sometimes my daughter, she stays with me one weekend and she stays with her mother another week. The weeks that my daughter is not with me, and I'm fortunate to have that split shared time. So the weeks that my daughter, she's 8, so she requires a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
attention than our older children. So when she's with me, if I have to, I work out on the porch. I work out in the living room. I have weights at the house. Like I'll do something. I'll do some calisthenics. I'll go to a job. Even though my main mode of working out is going to the gym, like that's my preference, but I can't do that when, her cheerleading schedule is as demanding as it is. So when you're on an
Oh,
uphill, it's get it in when you fit in. But
yeah.
there's a beautiful place to where when fitness becomes a tool for you, that my fitness actually helps me with the stresses of being a father. My fitness actually
Mm.
helps me with the stresses of being a husband. My students know, and this is not a joke. My students can tell you, like, Mr. Gross, you haven't been to the gym. You didn't go to the gym today, did you? Because they can
Wow.
tell it affects that much of my movement. So the more you fall, and it's like, I try to equate it to like your spiritual walk. Like how do you have the time to be a nurse, sleep all night, and still do ministry on the weekend? You got a job, and you would probably look at me and be like, well, listen, John, if I lose that part of me,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not my, I'm not going to show up as well in these situations if I lose that, you know?
Very good.
And so my fitness, but that's, you have to get over that hump of, I hate fitness. This is something the doctor wants me to do. I'm dying right now. When you get to the place where I'm eating the right thing, I love it. This is good for me. This is worship. God is getting glory from this. I'm doing things that I did not expect. And when those endorphins start hitting, you start loving the workout. Then it's like, man, I snapped on my daughter today. I need to go for a run. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if I need to exercise before I wake her up, because if I'm too tense when I wake her up, then I'm showing up. But it's because I understand, like I said, like those goals, like the synergy, like
Yeah.
my
I think
workout
that's
isn't
great.
just for my biceps, it's for my baby.
Oh, yes. I love that. Are there ways that, if you're, what about the person that's saying my kids are with me all the time? And, maybe they feel like kids can be a distraction in this area. Are there ways that people could get their kids involved in fitness?
Yes, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that, like, and just hearing that, it kind of speaks to where I would say, like, sometimes we have issues from the perspective that we have, but like, your, if your fitness, part of your fitness goals are to show up as a better mom or to have a better, calmer mood, then my kids can be a part of my fitness. My kids can be around. I want my daughter to see me working out. Like I have no
Mm-hmm.
problem with my daughter holding a book and reading or playing on her iPad while daddy jumps rope. And then it'll be like, yo, you want to jump rope with daddy?
Yep.
Because the things that we're doing, we don't do anything for ourselves. We do it for those around us. So like, and I had to even correct myself and become a stronger father in that, because there was a point in time where I was so focused on my fitness. My daughter was in cheerleading, and there are moves, there are exercises that she could be doing to like help her with her jumps, help her with her tumbles, all of that stuff. So it was just like, okay, well, daddy's getting ready to work out. You eat your breakfast, and in 35 minutes, come outside, and now you working on your cheerleading stuff, or you're doing this. So, just the same way that you would if you were organizing your checkbook, or if you
Yeah.
figured out a way how to cope with trauma. you're gonna teach that to your kids. So if
Yes.
you figure out that exercising and walking makes you feel better about yourself, you're not gonna wait till your child turns 34 to tell them. You're like, no, nigga, we going out together
I'm rolling. Not
now.
not not the ninja, not the ninja. Listen, sometimes we
Oh
gotta
yeah, oh
call
yeah,
them
oh
that.
yeah,
No,
oh
no,
yeah,
you're absolutely fine, John. When I say that has me rolling in my mind because those are the things I find funny. He said, "No, I'm cracking up," and I think that was yes, that was great. That was very well put because two things that I really heard in that. Like one, I kind of talked about on another podcast how sometimes we try to like. It's weird how we try to shield our kids from things that are perfect. They're capable. They're strong. And so I like that one you said when you bring her out, sometimes it doesn't have to be the same thing. She's focusing on her area of fitness while you're focusing on yours. But also, do you think that sometimes like we could be like, oh, kids can't do that. That's too much for a kid to work out in the gym. But yeah, we're okay with them climbing monkey bars. We're okay with them
Mhm.
doing all this other crazy stuff. Like, why not do similar movements or control movements in a gym? Like, you know what
And
I mean?
it's not even, and yes, and it definitely can be in a gym, and I definitely
Or
think
not just in a gym, but with like weights or tools or when
we're
appropriate.
just getting more
Yes,
active,
yes,
just
yeah,
getting, just seeing fitness as like, hey, son, hey, daughter, you had a bad day. Let's go for a jog. Like, and
yeah.
teaching them that that is a way to cope. Like, hey,
It's an outlet.
I hear, right. I hear you. I see you not feeling too well. Like, listen, let's get up in the morning and start doing some stretches. You know what I mean? Start with some effort. Like, you don't have to be a mental health guru to know that it's good to start your kids with affirmations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But exercise is the exact same way. So it's like you don't have to be a fitness coach or have a barbell to get your kids start active. Like, no, we can go out. Remember tag? That's
Yes.
active.
Come
You
on.
know what I mean? Like just go play tag with your kids, go play catch with your kids. You know what I mean? Run up a hill, roll down a hill with your kids.
That's
Like all of
that's
those
actually
things.
another reason why I brought that up because it's like, obviously we talk about the fact that kids these days, some of it is we like to blame the children, we like to blame the technology, but at the end of the day, their kids are also dealing with a whole lot more than we dealt with, like in terms of the threats of kidnapping or fear of just people are not what they used to be, neighborhoods are not what they used to be, and we have
Mhm.
to we're like just this heightened state of things being different, and so we play a role as parents, whether it's that's like not letting our children go outside to play by themselves, and maybe for your area or your environment that's not wise, but how can we still get them out there to like we always talk about, kids are just not jumping double dutch, they're not playing tag, they're not some are, I'm not hopefully people understand, they understand what I'm saying, I'm not trying to
Right.
generalize or put everyone in the same pot. However, we see obviously between iPads or all these different things that are great in some ways, there's definitely that lack of going out and doing all the exercise. We even though we were at the corner store eating chips and hugs, we definitely ran probably, I don't know, the equivalent of miles a day because we
Playing
were ripping
tag,
and
right?
running. Yes, yeah.
Or we didn't have cars, or our parents didn't drive us everywhere. We had to walk.
Yes. We
It's like
walked. Oh my gosh,
I
my
remember
cat.
walking to school. Walking to school was a thing. Like you could walk to school if you lived close enough.
But we
You know
would
what I mean?
not, but these days we wouldn't let our kids do that
Right,
a lot of times. Like, you know what I mean?
right,
It just depends on the area. So growing up in
right,
Philly, I
right.
always tell my kids, I walked since elementary school. Okay. First grade, Kim was walking first grade to fifth grade. I can't even
Mhm.
imagine, well, where my kids' school were at that time, they were not gonna be walking. It really don't matter.
Mhm.
And even if it
Mhm.
was right around the corner, living in
Mhm.
West Philly, yeah, I was gonna be walking them regardless.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. And just yeah, all of the above. So, okay. Yeah, I love that. So, I just have a couple more
Mhm.
questions for you. So,
Mhm.
you already know I'm
Mhm.
going to round out to where I told the people that I'm going to. This is my, y'all listeners, this is my chance to really get on John for something. Okay. This
Uh-oh.
man married my pastor, bro. You violated, bro. No, I'm kidding. That first of all, that is a flex. But like you married my pastor. Like for those who don't know, there are some who do know Kim or John. But my childhood church, the pastor's daughter eventually became the pastor of the church. And this man went on and married her. Like, and I'm trying to tell y'all, I knew her. She knew me since a kid, but I met him in college. And imagine just years later that you see this person you knew from college, your husband knows from high school, and he's marrying who's now before people start to get the wrong image. Pastor is just a title. She is a gorgeous woman. I mean, we all always joke about when I say, "Girl, you look good." That's her. That's Pastor Ruth. She
Yes,
is
she does.
fit,
Yes, she does.
has an amazing body, an amazing personality. A pastor is just one of her titles, an amazing title for her, but she's a woman, is what she is, and she's a beautiful woman at that.
Yes, she
And
is.
so
Yes, she
you
is.
done went on and married this woman,
You
and
hear me clapping?
real
You hear me
quick,
clapping in the background?
huh? What'd you say?
You hear me clap? I was clapping in the background. I was clapping it up.
Okay, yeah. No, she really be putting the youngest to shame, okay? Because she's amazing and looks great, and just funny. She's just a funny person. But the people want to know, John. This is my chance to ask you, how did y'all? I actually know now, but for the people that want to know, how did you meet? And did you ever think a pastor when you were dating? Like, were you ever like thinking like, am I really dating a pastor? I want to know. The people want to know, and I want to know.
Well, we met at a work. We also knew each other through like the sooner we kind of knew each other through mutual friends. But she was working for a agency. She was coming back to work, and she had doing some temporary work for Mastery, for a educational agency, and she came to work at my school for what was supposed to be a day, and then the day turned into a little longer, and it turned into a little longer than that, and we started out we met through work, and when I was dating, if I had ever thought to, build my perfect Mrs. Potato Head wife. If I could put everything together. No, I did not. I did not think that marrying a pastor was something that was uh, on the horizon for me.
Yeah,
I didn't. No, I didn't.
that's
But it's
amazing.
been an interesting journey. It's been an interesting journey.
I'm sure. And I just love that because she definitely, if one thing what I love about her and a lot of people love about her is she's going to um stretch your or challenge your thoughts about how a woman or a pastor or a wife or whatever shows up. And so when I say she's not your typical pastor, okay, so don't sleep on her, okay, because
Yeah,
she
yes,
gonna be
yes.
dressed to the nines and hair always done, nails always done. Yeah, so I don't blame you one bit for rolling up on my pastor, but I'm not gonna let you
Oh,
forget that
here
you
you
married my
go.
pastor.
Here you go.
So
Rolling up.
I have a surprise for you in terms of something fun that I wanted to do to pretty much round out the episode. I always joke about that, the listeners learn about one Haitian word per episode, and they probably haven't learned one in quite some time. So my pastor, for people who know, is Haitian American, just like I am, and John is not. However,
Mm-mm.
we are going to play this quick game in terms of I want you to let's see how many Creole words can John list off in 30 seconds. Okay. So
Oh
you are,
Lord.
yes, you are good.
Yo, Kim, you are ridiculous. Oh boy. Okay.
You are the first guest that I'm doing this with. And I actually had this plan to do this with another guest that I got coming up. So hopefully you just feel honored that I picked you in this way. But
Okay.
yes, do you feel ready?
Yes, this is definitely on the spot. I have not had opportunity to Google some responses, which I wish I could have, but yeah,
That's okay.
let's
That's the
have at
beauty
it.
of it. All right, I'm about to hit start. Ready, set, go.
All right. Soup Jumu.
Yes.
uh, Sesbois. Uh,
Okay.
Guagaje. I don't know. I can't probably butchering the
I'm gonna have to
pronunciation.
come back to that one, but go ahead.
Um, um, Au nom de Jésus. I'm trying to just hit the phrases that I hear. Banan,
Banana, yes, and
Mm.
time.
Oh Lord, all food, all food. You see my food
Yes.
addiction coming through? You see my
A
food
round
addiction?
of applause. A round of applause for John because y'all, he hit y'all with all the food he did, but you also threw in there on the Jersey. So any of the Haitians that's listening, that's in the name of Jesus. Okay, this man
Right,
clearly
right,
married
right.
to pastor.
Right, right. That's what I know. That's what I hear.
Yes, he dropped the soup jumu, the sauce pra, which is our bean sauce, just black
Yeah.
bean sauce, but it's different colors. Yeah, the bun,
Or
which is
green. I like
plantains.
the green. I like the
You
green.
like the green? Oh, yes.
Green sauce.
You got style. You got style. You got
Mhm.
flair, sir. I
Yes.
like it.
No,
I love it.
I've got a food addiction. I've had
Yes, you did say that. That's true. Okay. Yes. So kind of round us out. I guess I'll just ask these last two points, but this is your I love that you started the podcast saying that, you are a married black man, you are a father, you are a teacher, you are an educator. And something that we kind of hinted towards, we didn't have to get into it, is that, like you said, you had a previous relationship, previous marriage. And so you are somebody that, and you, like I said, this is why I kind of picked you, that I just felt like not just from a male's perspective, but just for everyone could speak to the different, the ebbs and flows of life and the different ways that life sometimes the setbacks be setbacking, and where we start and where we end up. And so if there's a way, like, I don't know, like if you see it that way, like were there, when you were going through different setbacks, whether that be relationally and or in your weight or in your or different areas of your life to where you are now, do you feel like that those setbacks came together, or do you feel like that when setbacks were happening in one area of life, that the progress was happening in other areas of life, and that kind of helped kept you balanced? Any insight you might have in terms of somebody who's kind of gone through all those ebbs and flows of, and you are where you are now and you're not happy no more?
No, no, I'm not heavy anymore. Um, I would just, I would just, kind of advise or just want people to know and understand that those three like main pilots, or roadmaps for how you operate your mind, your body, and your spirit. All of them have residual effects on each other, and all of them have residual effects on your daily interactions, how you show up. Like, obviously, if you are, consider yourself a person of faith, then it should affect how you show up at work or how people meet you. If you are a person who is, an exercise enthusiast or you eat really healthy, like it'll show up in how, you present yourself, how you interact with people. And so my like greatest achievement, I feel like is kind of understanding that those three things kind of work together and
Mm-hmm.
looking back over my life. I was maybe focusing on one area at a time, maybe two areas at a time, but now kind of like looking back over the entire journey, it's like I can pull lessons from my past relationships to help me out in the gym. I could
Mm-hmm.
pull things that I learned in the gym and bring them over to issues that I'm having at work with my children. I can look at relationship issues from my past relationship and talk about what I will not do in this relationship. I
Come
can
on
take
now.
issues from my relationship now and apply them to how I speak to my daughter. I can take, all of those things, the way that I work out and the devotion that I have to working out, I can put that into, my daughter's ridiculous cheerleading schedule. If I could follow a gym schedule, then as a father, I can help follow her cheerleading schedule. Like
Yeah.
all of those things are interconnected. And the more you strengthen those areas together, the more they'll all kind of just rise up and you'll just be a better, more well-rounded person. And not to say that, focusing on your mental health or, seeing your therapist, like all of those things are great. But when you can get your mind, your body, and your spirit all working together, it's a dangerous human being right there.
I absolutely love it. Like, way to close the podcast with that, what I call the Macaulay Culkin moment, that I
Hmm.
have with all the guests, where I'm just sitting there like, but that honestly, I'm just smiling, and I really appreciate. I appreciate you. I appreciate every guest that's come on this podcast because, and I always try to say like certain questions. I never want people to think I'm trying to be invasive. Is really because I feel like for myself or others, like, I people are coming to learn from you, and I think a lot of times that those areas of transparency, that's something that I had to work on in my life just to be okay with being, of course, with, with wisdom, and still boundaries, but just understanding that there's certain areas that if you share them, they really help and can heal other people, and they help people relate to you in ways that they don't know. And so if people can see that John was heavy, quote unquote heavy in a relationship area. It's not about like, it's not about the person. Like we're talking about when we're talking about this, this conversation, we're talking about him, like he said, within the relationship, his role, the different things he experienced, maybe what he did in one season that he's not doing now. Like, so when we can look at somebody being heavy relationally and where they've progressed to now, and somebody being heavy mentally and where they've progressed to now, somebody being heavy spiritually or physically and where they progressed to now, that's what we want on this podcast. And I really thank you. And one, I'm so happy for you. Like, I've been happy for you for a long time. Like, I know I joke about like just the whole pastor thing, but honestly, even though it was such a like, how did these two people that I know meet each other like in a world I never expected it? Like, not that it's about me. Once I saw it, John, once I saw it, I was like, this makes sense. Like, that's just one area of your life where I saw like, wow, that they click. Like, that's just like you said, that synergy. And then seeing that in so many other areas of your life, like I said, seeing that day and physically and just and just all the you've always been a very intelligent, insightful person. I hope you know that. I that's not an area I ever doubted that you can like bring the heat and just bring so much insight. So all that to say, I this is very a great way. Like, it really speaks to the podcast in terms of we talk about be set back to be catapulted forward. That's what you just explained. That's what I really heard, that in all the setbacks, like that Nelson Mandela quote, there's no L's. It's just lessons. Like, you just gain. And all those areas that you've been set back, you're just using them now. And for you to be able to stand here and say, like, I can look at multiple areas of my life and see like progress. That's a win. I don't know if you realize that, but I want you to pat yourself on the back, and I really want to give you that pat on the back that that's a win. Like, you're seeing
Thank you.
progress. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, and it feels good to because you see other people with the demographic, to be a black man at 40 years old, to be, you know, in a place where I feel like have somewhat of a control over my health, my diet,
Yeah.
my spirit, my choices, the way that I live. Like, yes, all glory be to God because it didn't have to end up this way. And yeah, so thank you for having me. Shout out to you, Kim, and all the progress that you've made and what I've seen this grow from the conversation that we had
Yep.
so long ago before this even starting to
Yeah.
where you are now, to your guests and to everything that you're doing. It is a beautiful experience. And I am so grateful that the conversation that we had, it has actually come to fruition. There is a connection between the work that we are doing, the work that we are
Yeah.
passionate about. And I am so very glad to be a part of your piece to the conversation and what you are adding um to our faith. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. So thank you so much. Yeah, like thank you. That means a lot. It really does. So where can people find you? And I say that because I know you will say, well, I know you were joking in some areas. I'm not ready for this, or I'm not ready for that, and I'm not training. But you did start to speak to some of your goals, in terms of things that you plan to set up. But also, like you said, you're a fitness enthusiast, and I've seen you like lead classes and listen, that boxing class that you even did at that retreat, that was one of the
Stop,
reasons I was
stop.
like, I need to sign up with John. Like, no, you definitely have value to give the people, and I'm sure people want to know where to find you. So where can people find you?
So for right now, if you are looking for eating and health and exercise advice, I'm on Instagram at Seeds of Daniel. Seeds, Seeds of Daniel, Daniel. Seeds of Daniel. It's just a ministry page that I've been inspired to. I don't even want to call it ministry. It's a eating exercise page that I've been inspired to start because I feel like a lot of people can learn from my journey, the mistakes that I've made, the wins that I've had, the thoughts that I've had. I just want to kind of share my story and help more people make a more conscious health choice in their life. And I feel like I have something to share, and I feel like people you know, will find something that they can utilize.
Yeah. Can we maybe expect some training packages or services in the future, in the near future?
It's up in the air.
Okay.
It's up in the air. I do have a ambition for fitness. There's something in there, but for right now, I'm looking at more helping people cradle that synergy,
Yeah.
create that synergy and understand it. Like I kind of like to cipher myself. I'm not here to replace your gym coach. I'm not here to replace your pastor, and I'm not here to replace your therapist. But what I'm here to do is to show you that all three of them all will be working together to help you out. Like all three of those areas um, are what can help catapult you to that next level of your life and living that more abundant life. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know where God is going to take me, but I don't feel like I'm called to help people with that. I feel like the power is in that synergy, fam.
Yeah.
Understanding that your iPhone, like, can turn your watch off. Like your watch can like play a movie on your iPad. And when people don't understand how powerful those three things are connected, like that's
Hmm.
where my passion is helping people see and utilize it. Because there's so much harness energy already in those areas that people just aren't tapping into. Like there's
Yeah.
no way that you can be a pastor and fast for 40 days and do all this ministry, but you can't pick up the discipline to stop eating cold cuts. When
Mm.
you read all the articles
Not
about
the cold cuts, but you right. You saying right. Listen, immediately something rose up in my spirit for the Italian hoagie. No, I
right,
actually haven't eaten pork in a while. I've been staying away from Italian hoagie.
right. But it's like
But I
we
used to
will look
love
at
them
that.
things.
Listen, fam, I had a rib business. I was the barbecue king. So like if God can do it for me
Ribs.
and the way hey Kim, I
Yeah.
told you, like
Yeah.
it's not you, but like the Bible says, like my people perish through the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't just, he's not just talking about just spirit. Cause anytime we talk about it, we always talk about spiritual stuff, but nobody really puts that to like your health. Nobody really equates that to, your mental health. Like my
Yeah.
people are dying because they don't know. And literally, like, that's why you've been called to do the work. People are dying because they don't know that there's work that you should be doing around your mental health. Our
Yeah.
people are dying because they don't know that there's work that you should be doing around your lymphatic system and your diabetes diagnosis. Our people
Yeah.
are dying due to lack of knowledge. The Bible is true. It's just how you look at it and whether you apply it to this area.
Well, listen. Well, y'all, listen, this man said he's not our therapist. He said he's not our trainer and he's not our pastor. But I don't know. I heard a whole lot of everything mixed up in there. And I whatever it is that you'll deem it or whatever it is, it's great and it's needed. And synergy is the word for today. I love that. And not just that. This is you guys heard it here first. This is John Groce, and this is someone who is showing us that in all the areas that he's going forward, that as he goes, if we can do the same thing that he's done, then we all can go forward in this area of our life, of our lives. So, John, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. Keep progressing forward with this podcast, with your
Thank
work,
you.
with your family, your beautiful husband, Rico, my main man since
Yes.
like ninth
You're
grade
broke.
math class. Yes, we were in ninth grade math class together. So we used to wrestle together in middle school. Like that's my
Wow.
main man. So
Yeah.
yes, continuing doing everything, You know, it's so beautiful to see where your life has taken you. I never thought that that crazy, funny girl from the choir, we'd be doing a podcast together some
Yeah.
umpteen years later, but it's great. It's great. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, Queen.
John. Thank you for being here. Thank you, listeners.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for rocking out with us in this episode. Listen, if you are feeling we all go forward, I ask of you, subscribe. I don't want you to miss whenever our episodes drop. Also, remember, as we move in the right direction, that is forward and progressing, never stagnant, we become a resource to help others move in the right direction as well. And the cycle continues, but only if we move. If you go and I go, then we all go forward. Let's get moving.